Happy Tuesday, myself, Dean7904, joined today by Head Chopper. Just an intimate show, Chop, just the two of us. Typically, there's a buffer for the three of us, but your usage is going to boost up. The both of us, our usage has to boost up today. Just a two-man booth. We're going to hand it off, of course, to crunch time. We have Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth coming in around 6:15. Dave Potts, two-time millionaire winner, Cheeseisgood, as well as Derek Carty warming up in the bullpen, coming in about an hour and 15 minutes. Chopper, you're probably a little bit distracted today because there's a chance. You got like a 14% chance, Chop. If you want to get all technical and specific, your Houston Rockets, their fate going forward can be forever changed. Tonight, the lottery balls are dropping. The Wembanyama sweepstakes. Good luck to your Rockets. I assume. Oh, we're going to be watching that live, right? We're tuning in. This is like basically the fate of your team the next several seasons. And I guess we'll see what happens with James Harden if he's coming in. But yeah, are we excited about to watch some ping pong balls tonight? Yeah.
Well, Dean, I'm definitely excited, but you have to temper your expectations. The way they've designed it, it's still only a 14% chance that any particular team, the highest, that's the highest you could possibly, 14%. So that's not very great anyway. But somebody's franchise apparently is going to be altered forever. Because apparently this guy is really good. Now, I've seen it. I don't know. You just never know. It might not be that good. Who knows? But there's a pretty good chance your franchise is altered tonight. And so it'd be interesting because, I know everybody's assuming, I just don't think people really understand or grasp the odds on this thing, the way they've balanced it out in the NBA to where, yeah, Detroit had the worst record. Still only 14% chance. The Rockets were really bad. Still only 4. Like, there is a legitimate chance that an actual decent team gets this guy. Like, what if Dame Lillard's, Portland Trailblazers grab him or, something like that. So it's going to be interesting, man. But, yeah, I'll be paying attention because it's a big deal here.
I was saying if you're not like a rooting interest or a team you want to see win it, if you just like chaos, you're rooting for Dallas, right? If you just like to watch chaos and just watch people lose their minds after the way that the season ended for Dallas and where they, clearly, and a lot of teams tanked. You mentioned Portland. Portland obviously tanked. Detroit, just everybody was hurt all the time. It kind of sort of happened organically at some point. But then your Rockets actually, shout out to them. Once they got in their position, they basically played their guys near the end of the season. But yeah, I see in the chat, Hoosiers hang banners, not surprisingly, rooting for Indiana. And I was asking on Twitter, producer Steve, is Wemby going to be a bust like Zion? Is Zion a bust or just always injured? I don't really know. I guess that's kind of sort of one and the same. It's not really his fault, but we'll see. And that's also what if he goes to New Orleans, like Zion and Wembanyama, and all of a sudden Zion somehow finds a way to get healthy? That will be an incredible duo as well. Yeah, man, it's really, really interesting. I'm really curious to see how it goes down. I hit the Tankathon button on tankathon.com, Chop. You could sim the lottery. And I hit it. The very first sim I got was Dallas winning it. So there you go. And I just hit it right now live for funsies. And guess who it was? Indiana. So shout out to the Pacers. Congratulations to the Indiana Pacers. Halliburton and Wembanyama seems like that could be a lot of fun as well, too. But certainly have our eyes on that one. Wish everybody luck. And if the NBA were to rig it, people like to put on their tinfoil hats. Who would they rig it for? Because I actually asked this question on Twitter, and 3 people told me the same team. What's the team that the NBA, if they had their druthers, who would they rig the lottery for?
Well, I'm curious of what the people said. What did the people say?
The Bulls. They say the Bulls.
Oh, because I get it. It would, man. Who's the biggest market? I mean, if you're gonna rig it, I think you gotta probably rig it for Houston, right? Biggest market team out there that has a chance to do it. Why, as fun as it would be to see Zion, with Victor Wembanyama, there's no way they want New Orleans to be a centerpiece of the NBA, right? That's too small of a market, I would imagine. Toronto, who the heck? Indiana, they don't want these teams. I would imagine Houston is right. Maybe Detroit and Houston have the best 1-2 punch, or opportunity, but those are also some pretty big market teams right there.
San Antonio also 14% for what it's worth. All 3 of them. Yeah, but
again, man,
Yeah.
ratings terrible when they're in the finals. So I don't know if the NBA would want that to happen. But sneaky here, man. Detroit's got just as good of a chance as anybody. Detroit's building quite a heck of a young roster right there. So
Are they?
well, Cade Cunningham, I'm pretty sure they shut him down intentionally, right?
I'm just not certain he's good. Like he
Whoa.
can put up some stats. Yeah,
I think he can be like.
He might be. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm not certain he is.
Not like a superstar, but like a definitive number 2 guy on a championship team. I definitely see. He's just an all-around, well-rounded player that does a lot of good and has no weaknesses. So I think that's pretty good fit right there.
Elliot in chat, by the way, Elliot says LaMelo, that could be a lot of fun there in Charlotte. Obviously, Charlotte not a great market for the NBA, but pairing those two together, obviously LaMelo's got to stay healthy, but that could be a fun combination as well. But this guy, I mean, look, again, biggest prospect in our lifetime. They're saying he's an even bigger prospect than LeBron. I'm not saying that doesn't mean he's going to be better than LeBron, but it's just worth noting. Just thought I'd throw it out there because I'm curious. I assume you're excited. Your franchise has got a shot at 14% chance. My franchise, of course, the Miami Heat, they're somehow weaseled their way to the Eastern Conference Finals again.
What do you think, Dean? What do you think? Grudge match between you and Kirky. Who's going to win?
I mean, they're just not that good. They're overachiever. Miami.
Wow.
Miami's not that good.
Is there a possibility that maybe they just kind of tanked all year and just withheld everything into the playoffs?
I don't think so. I mean, look, again, first of all, in 2023, when your two best players can't hit threes, I shouldn't say can't, but Butler's not a 3-point shooter per se. That's kind of a flawed way to structure a lineup, structure a roster. And then it's just a bunch of dudes around those two guys saying, they get the most out of everything they have. They're overachievers. Heat culture is real, but like Boston's just like distinctly better. They probably have the edge in coaching in Miami, I suppose, just because I think they got the best coach in the league, possibly, arguably.
The way they would win the series. That's the way they win every series so far. So yeah, they have.
Spo is awesome,
and Missoula stinks.
I don't know about that. Like, I have no idea, but supposedly
I've seen it, Dean. He stinks, man.
All right, Kirkwood, by the way, in chat saying I'm already making excuses. Not an excuse. I'm saying that it's likely that Boston wins. Okay. Big boy slate in baseball tonight. Still 2 hours until we go up the lock. Plenty of time to knock this out. We have Coors once again, Chopper. Some of the more popular players on this slate from a hitting perspective are actually not hitting tonight. They're not playing baseball this evening. We just got a Texas lineup. Is Seager back tonight? He's not. Okay. I guess he's coming back tomorrow. We'll see. Okay. So no Seager. It was anticipated that he may come back tonight. Colorado is doing their best, so you don't roster them, despite the fact they're facing Brandon Williamson, who looks terrible. If you read Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, if you read his article today on how bad Brandon Williamson was in the minors, now I saw he's like in their prospects list, like number 10 or so, something like that. But he's not getting promoted because he's been good. I can go ahead and read this. Sure, why not? Let's see. AAA, 6.62 ERA, a 6.5 FIP, 16.4% strikeouts, 12.1% walks. Last season, he made 13 starts in AAA at 19% strikeouts, 14.5% walks. And you're making your MLB debut in Coors Field. And the Rockies countered. They say, well, we're not even going to even try because no Chris Bryant and no Ryan McMahon. Like, their two best hitters, basically, two of their top 3-4 best hitters, however you want to phrase it. They are not playing baseball tonight. Also, we have J-Ram. Jose Ramirez looked like one of the best plays in this slate as well. He's on the bereavement list. I wish him well, but not playing baseball tonight versus Lance Lynn, who's just given up so many homers tonight. Been super unlucky, I guess you can say, from a homer in the fly ball perspective. I think over 2 per 9. Yeah, 2.23 per 9. Giving up a lot of homers this season. No J-Ram. Coors slate, some good pitchers. You can poke some holes in some of them. Once again, the site's goofed. I don't know. They just don't. This is what they like. Matt McClain is 2K on DK, and FanDuel introduced him to the player pool as well, and he's also 2K on FanDuel. 2K and DK goes a little bit further than 2K and FanDuel, but both really, really useful tonight. Tight's a little bit. The cap's a little bit tighter on DK tonight, but McClain batting second. prospect for Cincinnati, some power, some speed. I watched that game last night, a chunk of it at least. He's got some wheels, man. Scoring from second base on like a really hard hit ball to left field somewhat easily. He had to slide, but he's got a lot of speed, that McLean kid. All right, so Chop, give me your overall assessments, your screenshots, your 30,000 foot view. How are we attacking tonight's MLB DFS slate?
There's a lot of pitching to choose from. Lots of pitching, lots of options. I don't think any one particular pitcher stands out at all. And then on the hitting side of it, it's you're really going to have to fight the urge, depending on what contest you're playing. Boy, you're going to have to fight the urge not to roster that Coors Field game like to the fullest extent. I know GPPs, you want to be different, and you can, start by not playing a Coors Field game because it will be heavily owned. Whew, that's hard though. That's difficult tonight. The way they've set up the salaries and this pitching matchup is just going to make it very difficult. So I guess we can talk through some other stacks in a little bit, but lots of pitching. It's spread out, and then the hitting, you're gonna have to fight your instincts in order to get different, because it's going to be tough to fade a $2,000 guy in Coors Field, batting second against a bad pitcher, all so on and so forth. So, we'll figure it out as we go, Dean.
Yeah, I mentioned the dude pitching for the Reds, Brandon Williamson. I neglected to mention Chase Anderson, who I thought we were done with Chase Anderson. I think he was DFA'd by, I want to say, the Rays. And the Rockies are like, yeah, 34-year-old journeyman, that's our type of guy. So they're throwing him out there today against the Reds. Some of these hitters, a lot to be desired as far as these two offenses, not the best offenses. Yeah, in chat they mentioned no CJ Cron. Cron's actually hurt. He's on the IL, so they could not put Cron in the lineup. But the Rockies chose not to play Bryant. And to my knowledge, he's healthy. To my knowledge, McMahon is healthy. Left on left, I guess, with Williamson. I don't know what the story is there, but they did play Moustakas. There's at least one lefty in that lineup. Blackman leading off also against Williamson, and he we'll see. Probably doesn't go especially deep tonight. Taking a peek at the ownership stuff, and there's plenty of other pivot, stacks that we'll talk about. We'll talk about stacks later. It's not got the pitchers first, Chop. Do you want to say what's up in the chat? Didn't officially say hello to chat. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe, hit those notifications, do all the things to keep us. Let us know we're doing a good job. Let us know that we can keep the lights on and keep doing this show for free as long as possible. Just checking out the ownership stuff here, giving a refresh here, Chopper, as far as DK. You got to roster 2 of these starting pitchers. Your boy, Christian Javier, starting pitcher for your Houston Astros. Most popular pitcher in the slate by a good bit, 43%. Zach Wheeler at 30%. Kevin Gausman, the matchup's not spectacular, against New York. Aaron Judge, who knows where his eyes are going to be lurking tonight. Did you see that last night?
Can we address this, Dean? Some nerve on this guy to try to call out the Astros a couple years ago. Holier than thou. Guy's been cheating for 5 years now, man.
You're saying retroactively this is evidence he's been cheating for the last 5 years?
Well, no. They actually did the studies on New York and the Apple Watches and everything else that's happened, and they were all part of that whole thing in 2017 anyway, and they were actually one of the first ones to do it back in 16 and 15. We found this out after everybody persecuted the Astros, and he got on his little soapbox talking about Altuve should give back the MVP. Yeah, guy's still cheating, man, after 5 or 6 years. Just disgusting, sickening behavior. And I don't even mind trying to get an edge. Who cares? Get a little edge. I don't think it makes it. But don't get on your soapbox and act like you're better than everybody and that you don't cheat. Just disgusting behavior out of a typical New York guy.
I was just going to ask, and producer Steve, on top of it, I was going to say, can producer Steve show the people, in case they missed it, can they show them what we missed out on? And he's all over it. He's showing the people right now. What is your best guess here, Chop? What's your best guess as far as what's going on with his eyes? For what it's worth, the pitcher also threw like the same exact pitch, like a slider, 5 or 6 pitches in a row. He hit the ball at 500 feet, just annihilated. You still have hit the ball, right? Here you go. We dropped the gift there in chat. Right before the pitch is thrown, he's kind of taking a peek. Do you think, best guess as far as what's going on, does somebody in the dugout kind of have a read on, is there a tell for the pitcher? Is the pitcher kind of let you know based upon how he's holding his hand in his glove or whatever? Is somebody looking at what the catcher is doing? If you were to have your best guess, what is happening here?
My best guess is they found maybe they might be like, knowing the Yankees and the way they operate down there, they may have actually like tunneled into the pitcher system, the intercom system, where the pitchers are relaying and the catchers are talking. Maybe they hacked the frequency, and and so they're trying to signal to judge what's coming, or there's just some shenanigans in the dugout, and some of the Yankees are, who knows what they're doing, man. They're just eyeballs. And so, he's probably cheating, but, who knows, man. He could be. I don't know what they're doing, Dean. I don't know, man. Oh, okay, I forgot. We got a Yankee guy, a Yankee faithful. Jared Barton is in chat. He's a Yankee guy. He loves.
And what's he saying?
He's just telling me to be careful, but I mean, it's obvious the whole organization is just, disgusting, man. The way they act, the whole Yankees, it's pathetic, man. Whatever, man. I think it's been like 6 straight years the Astros have eliminated them in the playoffs. They'll be all right. One day they'll get there.
It was like a 5-1 game in the 8th inning or so, kind of sort of over, not necessarily over. That doesn't seem like the spot where you would do it. According to Judge, I don't know if you were watching the game. I was actually watching the game, and a pitch or two before, Boone, the manager, came out and argued with the umpire. And after the game, they asked Aaron Judge about it, and his explanation, I should say, they asked him, he's like, I was just looking at our dugout, and I wanted people to stop chirping, like, let me work, essentially, that's what he was saying. Like, kind of like he was hoping people would, Boone said what he wanted to say, he backed him up, yada, yada, and now I wanted to make sure everybody was just kind of chill and just everybody was cool. I don't know. I don't know if that's what's happening or not.
I mean,
but the whole thing is interesting.
Are we supposed to believe anything that comes out of his mouth anymore? He's obviously lied for years.
What?
He's lied for years. He's lied for years. He's probably got a fake birth certificate. The guy's probably like 36, claiming he's still 31, and just to get a better contract. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't support any of these allegations. We shall move on. All right. So as far as popular pitchers tonight, how do you feel about your boy, Houston's own? Let's try to take off that hat there, Chopper, and tell me your favorite pitcher on this slate. Is it Christian Javier when all things are considered? Is it not Christian Javier? We saw Frambar gave up a homer. I got 3-1 homer to Christopher Morel, who's hitting just fine in the majors, it turns out. Even in the one spot. That guy's just really, really good. Play him every single day. Christian Javier, how do you feel about Javier being the chalk? 43% as far as ownership. Wheeler at 30, Gausman at 30 versus Yankees. Kershaw's good, but pretty expensive against Minnesota, 23%. Verlander getting 16%. I don't know how much I want to pick on the Minnesota. No. I'm sorry. Let me walk that back for a second. Verlander, I don't know how much I want to pick on Tampa. Tampa, one of the best offenses so far this season. Verlander, obviously a couple starts. He's been fine. Won a couple homers. Montgomery, I think, is the best cheapie. We'll talk about him soon enough. But where are you at as far as the big spends when we talk about the pitchers in this slate?
The big spins are, Javier specifically. I think he's fine tonight. I think I already said there's nobody stands out to me, and so when I say he's fine, he's actually probably the best, my favorite pitcher on the slate, and he's still just fine to me. He has this tendency to sometimes not have the control he needs to have, and it costs him innings and costs him runs and gets ran out of the game. But when he's on. He's the best. He could be one of the best in the game. I'm looking at the Cubs lineup tonight. Boy, not particularly scared of that. Not impressed by it. There's several guys in there who strike out at a pretty high clip. There's not a lot of, your guy Morel is like the one bat in there that kind of actually scares you, and that's about it. And even he strikes out a lot. So it's a good lineup to attack. If he's on his game, he'll be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. He could be. And you just have to worry about him having control on this particular night. And I think we'll be fine with that. So he's probably my favorite pitcher on DraftKings with that $9,600 salary, like way below Gausman and Kershaw. So, Javier is my guy there. And I'm with you on some of the other stuff. Verlander, I'm not attacking Tampa, and not attacking Tampa with a guy who's only a few innings into like the his return. This is probably still like spring training for Verlander. So I don't want to go that route. Gausman, he's expensive on DraftKings. He's getting a lot of ownership, good projection. He's a good pitcher and he's been good lately. But Dean, we have to attack the elephant in the room here. It's tough to roster a guy against a team that's known cheating right now. I mean, just who knows? Who knows what they got going on there, stealing signs. So I don't know about that.
I think it's also possible they're stealing it off the pitcher. Like sometimes the pitcher just kind of gives it away because of the way they're holding their hand in their glove, that kind of thing. And he did for the same pitch, the slider, 5 or 6 pitches in a row.
It could be. Or it's like I said, they could be tapped into the intercom system, something that's unprecedented in Major League history and something so shady it's just ludicrous. It could be that too. So
how arrogant would it be? All eyes are going to be on. Now all of a sudden, people were kind of like, they just watched the game to watch the game. They weren't on alert. But you're saying now with people on alert, they're still going to go ahead and if this is their tactic, wouldn't they pump the brakes?
Team, when you've been down in the dumps this long, like the Yankees, you do crazy things. So you just never know. Like they're getting owned in their own division right now, Dean. How many games can they fall behind and still expect to make the playoffs? You know what I mean? So this might be now or never for them. They might be pulling out all the stops, but
that's now or never.
Yeah, because you can't get aren't they last place in their division? They're not making the playoffs if they fall too far behind these guys. The Rays aren't going anywhere. Toronto, this is their division rival right here. They can't afford to drop too many to Toronto. So, yeah, you never know. Anyway, that's kind of the Gausman thing. You don't know what's going on with the Yankees, but Wheeler against a team that strikes out a lot, that's a good player right there. I like some Zach Wheeler tonight. Kershaw is expensive as heck. I don't know. I don't know how much I can afford to roster that, but against what I think is a pretty decent Minnesota offense. So those high guys, the way that breaks down, I'd rank them Javier, Wheeler, Kershaw, Gausman, and Verlander, with Gausman being the wild card because of the whole Yankees shenanigans.
Yeah, the Yankees are kind of a victim of their own division. That division is all good, right? Even the worst team in the division, Boston's 22-20. Tampa, obviously, I think they're still the best team in baseball, right, as far as their record. Just been absolutely smashing. Baltimore's been, taking a big step forward this year. A lot of their young guys coming up, 26-15 and developing. Toronto, 24-17. New York, 24-19, not bad, but just that division has been pretty tough. The K's for that New York lineup, actually not as strong as I thought it would be. You do have Bowers and Volpe and LeMahieu and Judge, but there are a fair bit of contact guys. Trevino, IKF, Cabrera. Torres, only 12% strikeouts this year. Bader, master of his own domain, only 3% strikeouts, only 30 at bats. So whatever, small sample size stuff. He struck out once this year versus righties. Gausman, for what it's worth, is the biggest K guy this year on the slate by a pretty good bit, 34.2%. Next up, Christian Javier, then Clayton Kershaw, then Luis Castillo. Castillo's going to be I think he's almost fully, I don't want to say fully neglected, but very much neglected in the slate. Because not the best ballpark. He's going to see a fair bit of lefties in that Boston lineup, and his Ks drop at a fair rate when you consider lefties versus righties. I'm jumping to the plate IQ right now. I want to confirm this. 28.1% of the season for Castillo, but the strikeouts, versus lefties 25.3%, righties 30.4%. 25.3% is pretty good, but this Boston lineup is loaded with contact guys. Yoshida, 9.7%, Verdugo, 13%, Turner, 11%, Devers, 17%. So if you go through this lineup 2.5 times, you're catching all the contact guys 3 times around and the not-so-contact guys just twice. The bottom of the lineup for sure is vulnerable with, Reyes and McGuire and Valdez and Casas. But I don't know how many lineups I have to make until I get to Castillo, but, ownership obviously going to reflect that. Are you making a bunch of lineups tonight, Chop? Because I don't think I get to Castillo. I like him, but I think this is like a check back in 5 days situation for me.
I'll do 150 on FanDuel, just playing around, goofing around, get off the show and throw in 150. But 150. It's going to be tough to get to Castillo in this matchup on the road in a ballpark like that against the Red Sox. So I don't know if I will or not. I might force him in there because I do like the talent, and on any given night, a guy like that can explode. So yeah, he is going to get lost in the shuffle. but I still don't know if I'm going to get there. It's such a big slate, Dean. At some point, you got to. And we have somebody in chat just mentioned, I can't find the comment, but something like, oh, some guy, I don't know if this is his real thing or if he's just trying to make fun of me, but his name's is Chops. I don't know what's going on.
I thought that was you. Is that not you?
Is not me, but he says, I'm liking Javier and Wheeler, but they're like 40%. Man, you kind of don't want to play around with the pitching, and I don't know that you don't. If you feel good about two guys, I'm not sure I'd worry too much about, like, a hitter with heavy ownership is one thing. A pitcher is a different story. I think you can still get way different hitting. So if you really like two guys, I wouldn't really worry about the ownership on the pitchers so much if you feel really good about them. So I wouldn't worry about that. But yeah, the hitting's where you get different. So that's to answer his question. And I still don't know if he's trying to mock me or what's going on, but I'm okay.
Well, Chop says I'm stacking the A's a little bit. Just that's another comment. Are you stacking the A's or is he not? I don't know. Is that something you're considering doing?
Am I stacking the A's?
Probably not. Well, if you're running 150, you might get a pinch. Maybe a little bit of Rooker.
I'll say this much. I don't think they're a particularly good team, but they do surprise you sometimes hitting. And I'm also just looking at chat, Dean, and I know that there's the noted Yankee supporter Jared Barden is in there, and he's
been timed out by Kirkwood.
He's been timed out by the Red Sox fan after he said the Red Sox sucks or something like that. So I like it. I like it going back and forth in chat. It shows
quick trigger figure for Kirkwood.
Go for it. If you got the power,
no warning or nothing.
If you got the power, wield it, Dean.
By the way, Chop says he's not making fun of you. Yeah, Chop has had that nickname since he was a kid. So there you go. Yeah, you don't have a monopoly on the nickname. Other people can have the same nickname.
Oh, absolutely, Dean. I'm just saying there's a lot of imposters out there. You just have to be careful. But fine, hey, if that's your childhood nickname, go for it.
Yeah. Several people are asking about the Biebs. Shane Bieber against his White Sox team, which is not very good.
I like it.
Do you? I don't think he's in my top.
Okay, so on DraftKings, what, less than 5% ownership? A much cheaper salary than any of the guys we've already mentioned, the big guys up there. And he started the year really rough, but he's come on lately with some good outings. And I don't mind the matchup. The White Sox are just not good for the most part. Like, if you can get past Luis Robert, you can just smoke this lineup. So. Yeah, I don't hate it. I actually don't hate it on this kind of a slate.
I mean, 18 points, 8% Ks this season is not great. The walk rate's good, 6.3%. The ground balls are great, 46%. So if he's efficient, this is like a team where he can theoretically go like 7 or 8 innings and maybe just compile strikeouts that way and like strike out 6 and 8 innings. That's something he can do as well. He's fine. I guess he's fine. And like, I agree with you. I think the White Sox basically stink. Some of the cheapies that I'll be thrown out there is Lugo and Montgomery. Do you have a lean amongst those two? Because I do. I have a lean amongst those two. I'm curious if we agree.
Between who?
Lugo and Jordan Montgomery.
Lugo for me tonight. Definitely Lugo is my lean. And I say that by the ownership. What does it look like? About the same. All that good. Okay, so the reason I say that, Dean, is because Jordan Montgomery, when you think of Jordan Montgomery, I'm not thinking like this guy who just blows, fastballs past you. He kind of gets by on just being like a 4, maybe even 5 pitches anytime in the count. He'll throw whatever. They've got a very hitter-friendly umpire tonight. That worries me with a guy like Jordan Montgomery. That's my tiebreaker.
Yeah, I hear you. The counterpoint is he's facing the Brewers, and the Brewers don't hit, right? Versus lefties. So the Brewers against lefties this season, I guess I can just pull up their lineup, but I did write this up earlier today. Their K rate on the season versus lefties, Chop, overall, the entire team, 31%, which is an outrageous number. Their ISO is 26, their WOBA is 30th, their WRC plus is 30th, their OPS is 30th. I'll remind you, there are 30 teams that play baseball professionally. That includes like the Nationals and the A's, amongst other teams. They've been horrendous. Let's see specifically the actual lineup that's coming out. And it's not like the Montgomery spectacular. You're right. He's not somebody that's going to overpower you. 20.6% strikeouts, 6% walks. So that's pretty good. The Ks are not spectacular. Sierra's not spectacular, 4.18. It's fine. but he's cheap. He kind of helps you get in a couple extra bats if you need it, if you have an expensive stack. This iteration of Milwaukee, they do have a couple of contact guys. I say contact kind of loosely. Miller leading off. Yelich went either he's in the IL or he's not playing today, or he's left on left, and he wasn't going to play anyway. But I know he hurt his back, I believe. 19.4% strikeouts for Miller. That's the least amount of K guys they have specifically as far as Ks. 28.3% collectively. Adames 39% this season. Taylor 42%. Terang 45%. Good Lord. His ISO, by the way, is 0 versus lefties. He's got a lot of speed, that Terang, but can't steal first, they say, right? That's how many bats is that? That's 11, but still, all right. Has not been spectacular. This team overall, again, really, really weak versus left-handers. Talk to me about Lugo. Why do we like Lugo?
Why do I like him? I just think he's. You asked me to compare those two guys, and those two guys, I just, because of the matchup tonight, I think the matchup is a lot better. And Lugo's he's got some arm talent, so I'm okay with that in this matchup over Jordan Montgomery, who has lesser arm talent, a better matchup, but the umpire scared me. Lugo, I'm not going out of my way to roster him, although it's a really attractive salary, but in that middle tier, I think he's what. Are we saying Justin Bieber is an expensive guy or a middle tier guy, Dean? What would you list? 9K on DraftKings. What would you say? Middle tier or expensive?
You're talking Justin or Shane? Which Bieber we're talking about?
I'm sorry. Shane Bieber. My apologies.
He's like mid to upper tier, I would say. Yeah, mid to upper tier, okay. I guess.
So that would leave Lugo, Montgomery, Lynn, maybe Alex Cobb in that mid range. Lugo would be my favorite mid range guy, but and I prefer him over Montgomery. They're both got pretty good matchups. I'll just take the guy who, if I think everything's equal, which ownership looks equal, price tag looks pretty close, I'll take the guy that doesn't have the very tough umpire for pitchers.
By the way, chat, GR Sauce, you're saying Ross Weather Edge loves that game for offense. I thought you were talking about St. Louis. Which game are you talking about? Because the St. Louis game is not great for offense. We got a crosswind at 6 miles per hour, 69 degrees, 57 is the dew point. 123 similar games. We've seen a hit in home runs at 10%, a hit at runs of 11%. Not great weather according to Weather Edge for the White Sox. Coors Field today, 112 games, similar weather. We've seen a bump in homers at 10%, a bump in runs at 5%. A little bit of a downgrade to San Diego in a really big sample, 388-game sample. Machado may or may not play. He left the game last night. Maybe you're talking about Oakland. Oakland's got a slight bump. 301 games, 8% bump in homers, 6% bump in runs. Is there anything else that's like a significant bump? I don't think there's a huge bump anywhere. Boston, 5% a bump in homers, 12% bump in runs, 139-game sample, pretty good size. Wind blowing out 12 miles per hour. Right center, 75 degrees. I think that might be the best weather game that we're seeing. Feel free to correct me, GR Sauce, but I think that's the best one. Boston, and we'll talk about Seattle soon enough. They're one of my favorite stacks. Curious of your thoughts. Did we miss any pitchers? Anybody in the chat, feel free. If you're thinking about a pitcher, we did not talk about them for whatever reason. Go ahead.
Half of them we didn't talk about. What you talking about, Dean?
Well, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I know we're not done. We're still here for the next 45 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah.
You sound like you're ready to move on.
No. Oh, so GR Sauce just hit the refresh button. That's what happens. Yeah, if you hit the refresh, it's going to change on us sometimes. And that's, I guess, the weather. It tends to change. So that's what happened. It was a downgrade. But continue. Chop, what did you want to highlight that we've yet to really talk about?
I don't know if we were moving on. I'd like Dean's assessment tonight, or in general, on this emergence of Justin Steele, who's turned out to be a pretty darn good pitcher for the Cubs. What do you think about Justin Steele?
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I have not really considered him a ton tonight, but let me just go ahead and pulling up his numbers now as I'm talking, but I'm kind of moving to his matchup as we speak. Good name, by the way, just for the record, I would say that. But it's left on left, picking on your Astros, right? Tucker and Alvarez are in there. I don't think that the Houston lineup is particularly good outside of several players. We've had this conversation before. Did want to see if Steele is known for being a big splits guy or not so much, because that somewhat matters. When you're facing Houston, his split is basically an average split. I want to see as far as his Sierra and see if everything's kind of in line as far as his ERA. We'll talk about Alex Cobb in a second too. I saw somebody in the chat talking about Cobb, 1.7 ERA on the season. Yeah, so Steele has got a 1.82 ERA this year, Chopper, but he's been crazy lucky as far as home run the fly ball stuff. Now, he's been a great ground ball guy, 51% ground balls, just 32% fly balls. But this season, 0.36 homers to fly ball, homers per 9, but his homer to fly ball rate is 4.5%, Chop. That's really, really lucky. And part of that might be pitching on, the right days in Chicago, in Wrigley, when the wind's blowing in. I'm not exactly sure, but that feels like the regression monster is lurking. Again, the Sierra is more than double of that ERA. He's allowed only 2.9% barrels, which I think is the lowest in the slate amongst everybody pitching, if I kind of line them up together. Zach Wheeler, 2.5%. So, yeah, people are not barreling him up, so I'll give him that as well. I like Steele. I like the steps he's taken forward, but I don't necessarily like picking on Houston. But for sure, you can have him in your pool. I don't know if I'm getting there. Will you pick on your Astros? How many lineups do you have to make to consider rostering yourself some Justin Steele?
With 150, he'll be somewhere in there. He'll be in the mix, Dean. It's just not a full lineup yet, and I don't think it's particularly great outside of, you said the two best hitters in the lineup right now are both left-handed. He's, done a great job against left-handed hitters. So I think there's something to Justin Steele right now tonight, and I think it's interesting. I'll have him in my FanDuel large field pool for sure. Guarantee you'll see some Justin Steele teams tonight.
What is his ownership? You happen to have it pulled up. My guess is it's around like 5%. For some reason, my computer is acting up and running a little bit slow.
DraftKings,
it's probably not very high.
On DraftKings, I don't know if it's correct, but the aggregated ownership I'm seeing, Dean, is less than 1%.
Wow. Yeah. I know in our consensus rankings, myself, Kirkwood, Dave Potts, Mr. Tuttle, we all rank 8 pitchers, and nobody ranked them, right? There are some guys that not everybody was ranked universally, but not even a head nod from anybody. And he'd be probably 10 or 11 or 9 for me, right? But and you're considering salary and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, he's not going to get rostered. And if you want to be over the field, it's not very hard, right? If you're making 150, just throw out a few, and you're going to be there. For what it's worth, I'm finding him now in our TK. This isn't the aggregate. This is like our RotoGrinders percentage owned 0.73, which seems outrageous. And it don't be angry if it's 2%, but it's not going to be a lot. Is the point. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. You like Steele or Castillo as the guy that's potentially could put up a huge number. It's not going to be owned tonight. Great
question, Dean. I would lean Steele, but they both make you can make a case for both of them. And sometimes you just got to look at these lineups. You do got to recognize something. I saw John Brockmeyer point this out in chat that Cleveland, they're without Jose Ramirez tonight. That makes a difference. That's your best hitter in an already weak lineup. I think that does put a guy like Lance Lynn in play. I always like to look at the lineups. If I get a chance, if the lineups come out in time, I do like to peruse the lineups and see if there's any big names missing, and then you can bump up pitchers based on that. And I think this takes Lance Lynn from a guy that I would not. I'm not going to play Lance Lynn. To now, I think I can play Lance Lynn. Sure, that's a pretty darn weak lineup.
Yeah, you take out J-Ram, and there's not a ton of power in that Cleveland lineup. Basically, it's Naylor. Once upon a time, Bell had some power, but we haven't seen it this year. Naylor also swinging from the left-hand side. That's where Lynn is most vulnerable. And he's been, pretty unlucky as far as homering the fly ball. I think it's about 22%, 2.23 homers per 9 in the season. Just that's way too many. Theoretically, he should get some positive regression soon enough. His ERA is 7.51, but his Sierra is really respectable, 3.88. His xFIP 3.88. Yeah, I don't know how necessary he is, but he is kind of fine. I see several people in chat asking about this, and I hate speculating. And the narratives are kind of fun. This is not a fun narrative, but condolences to Clayton Kershaw. Apparently his mom died on the day before Mother's Day. And they're asking, like, do I think he's going to be up to pitch? I have no idea. And I don't want to pretend to think I know how to get in the guy's brain, but he's a professional athlete. And I assume, like, I don't want to play the results, but I'm just going to play him as is, right? I assume if he's out there pitching, and maybe it's a positive distraction. And again, I don't like to speculate on such things, but yeah. I mean, Chop, what do you say to that? Like, either you like him or you don't. You look at the numbers and you like him, and I don't know how to gauge, like, you know, he's dealing with some sort of grief right now, obviously. So it's not going to make me not roster him, and I'm not going to like roster him because of it either. So yeah.
Tough to quantify that, Dean. Maybe he goes out there. Wouldn't blame him, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he goes out there and gets shelled. You know, his mind's not in it. I could see that, but I've also plenty of times you see these guys like really get that adrenaline flowing because of something like that, and just absolutely dominate. So you just never know.
Alex Cobb has been awesome this year. The ground balls are pretty outrageous too, I believe. Let me check and see what they are now. Yeah, 64% ground balls, which I think is better than your boy Frambar. I think it might be, or it's close. That's an outrageous number, and in that ballpark too. Like, just does not feel very likely that Cobb's going to give up a homer. He's got to basically get BABIP'd. 0.57 homers per nine in the season for what it's worth. 20% fly balls. The K rate's not spectacular. It's fine at 20.9%. The walks are great at 4.1%. I like Cobb. Where is Alex Cobb for you on this slate? He's another guy that's kind of on the outskirts of the top 8, which is interesting.
Yeah, he's been really good this year, man. He's been as consistent this year as he's probably been in his career in any start to a season. So I think he's okay. I don't love the matchup here. I don't think we got an official lineup yet, but Phillies are pretty healthy right now. It's a good lineup. It's not a great ballpark, but I don't know. He just probably misses the cut for me on making too many of my GPP teams. Certainly not in cash. And I just feel like he's probably on the outside looking in. He's just like on DraftKings, what, 8,700? I can get the 300 more and get to Shane Bieber. I like him more. I can get 500 more and go to his counterpart there in that game, Zach Wheeler. Like, Alex Cobb is probably not the guy I'm going to roster too much tonight.
Philadelphia's lineup is out about 4 hours before that game starts.
Oh, yeah, it did just came out. All right, you're right. It just came out, Dean. I didn't refresh the plate IQ. My bad.
No worries. You're good. Pretty standard, right? Stott, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Schwarber, Realmuto, Baum, Marsh, and Cody Clemens. So Izzy in chat says, how did Hunter know Green? Hunter no. Oh, I see what you're saying. You don't get any green when you roster Hunter. Okay. How did Hunter no green work out? I warned y'all. Well, look, he struck out like 8 or 9 guys. That's what Hunter Green is. He struck out 8 or 9 guys and just gave up a couple of homers, and that's just what happens. And sometimes he does that without giving him the homers, and sometimes he does that without striking out 8 or 9 guys. But I had some. I don't know if you played Green yesterday, Chop, but he gives up fly balls, gives up home runs. He was in Coors Field. But like, you can't, he's pointing to the scoreboard and said he got whacked. Like, okay, he gave him a couple. Yeah, he gave him home. That's what he is. Like, nobody was saying otherwise. The warnings are very clear. Like, this is what he pitched as advertised. He had the most like Hunter Green line as you'd expect. That's what you should expect as a median projection. Couple of homers and a bunch of strikeouts. That's what he did. Anyways, Chop, did you play him yesterday? I had some.
I did not.
Didn't work out. Yeah.
I did not, and I know people who did though, and they weren't particularly happy with his outing there. He lost it. He was rolling. He had some good stuff, and then but it's Coors Field. I don't know.
He had 5 or 6 Ks in the first 2 innings. Like, I'm pretty sure that happened, and that's just what he does.
You know who else was rolling first couple innings?
Who's that?
Framber rolling along, man, and then
he's always rolling.
But
he's spectacular.
But your boy got to him, knocked him out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, if
it happens,
I'm always telling certain guys all the time, and I'm always talking about Christopher Morel, and I was rooting against him last night, but I'm not a Cubs fan, but he's a fun player to root for sure. And Yeah. All right. I'm not rooting for him tonight either, probably, because I'm probably going to have a fair bit of Christian Javier. Hopefully he doesn't ruin my night. Is there anybody we missed? Anybody you want us to focus on in chat before we talk about some stacks? Derek is telling us no Machado. Did the Padres lineup officially come out? Yeah, he left yesterday, I believe, with a hand. Oh, yeah, the Flaherty thing. Flaherty pulled that in reverse, right? Flaherty was terrible in the first inning, walking several people. It's like, yep, same deal. And they have Contreras as their catcher, but he really righted the ship, and he was awesome for like the next 5 or 6 innings or so. So good for Flaherty. Maybe he found something. I had no idea what to do with him. And Manoah, just put Manoah on the IL. Like, it's over, man. I don't know if you watched any of that game, but he's so lost that he cannot throw strikes, and his velocity's down. It's just a disaster watching Manoah. And I may or may not have picked Manoah over Zach Gallen in the RotoGrinders season-long league. I'm still tilted about it. Bad job by me. I like them both a lot, but all right. Chop, anybody you missed as far as pitchers?
Pitchers that we want to roster. I think we covered them all, Dean, but I was refreshing my Twitter timeline to see if I could find that Padres lineup.
Yeah.
And, it got lost, Dean. It got lost in all this hubbub of these tout wars. Can you believe? Did you hear that we got a new site now, Dean? There's a new site out there coming out, and then there's this other site that's attacking them, and it's crazy, Dean. What's going on here, man?
I don't know, man. I have not really partook in the Twitter wars and things.
Like I'm getting screenshotted tennis screenshots right now just to follow on the tout war. It's out of control now, Dean. It's out of control, man.
What are the tennis prize pools at? I don't think I've ever played DFS tennis. I can't name more than like 5 tennis players, and I'm probably rounding up. But yeah. It's interesting if nothing else, I suppose. And that's kind of part what Twitter's for, I suppose. Tatis, Cronenworth, Soto, Bogarts, Carpenter, Odor, Kim, Grisham, and Sullivan. No Machado significantly downgrades that lineup, doesn't it? I feel like it does. It's a pretty big hit, no?
It's a big player. Big Show Brandon's in chat. He says, "Remember when CPC was United?" And he mentions me and Dean. Dean was a member, but he was just a lurker. Dean was not a true. He never spoke up.
I never really chimed in. I rarely lurk, for the record. I wasn't somebody just kind of monitoring and spreading rumors. I got the invite. I still have the Discord. I think I'm still probably in there unless somebody kicked me out, but I never really chimed in, and I'm sure the CPC is all lit up too, and there's a big history of that. And is Kirkwood still the leader of the CPC, or he's been dethroned, right? I believe he's been kicked out, or he's no longer. He was in that power trip for a while. That's many years ago, I think. But
Kirky's been on a power trip for several decades now.
Big Show Brandon, by the way, in chat, he destroyed me in NHL, a PS4, a little PlayStation Online.
Oh,
I don't know if you dabble. I'm not the best player at the video games, but I beat the computer in hockey. But Big Show Brandon annihilated me in hockey, just full on shame me. I don't play a ton of video games, but I do like the hockey game, and I'm going to get better and play against him. But he was being kind and just walloped me, but he just barely beat the spread, just not to beat the spread to get his backers behind him, and then didn't fully embarrass me. But that day was pretty rough for me for sure, but good dude. And I was a big horse racing guy as well. Hey, we have to talk about stacks, Chopper. A lot of stacks today, of course, super obvious what's going on in Coors Field. We did kind of mention the lineups being downgraded. CJ Cron is on the IL. There's no Ryan McMahon because the lefty's pitching, I guess. There's no who else are we missing on the Colorado side? We talked about no Chris Bryant because I don't know. I'm not sure why Chris Bryant's not playing today. He's not playing baseball. J-Ram not playing today for Cleveland. Machado not playing for San Diego. How much are you getting on Coors? Coors, I believe, is 1-2 as far as our consensus when it comes to our stacks. I'm just checking now. Yeah, Cincinnati. Actually, Seattle is 2, which is kind of interesting, and I might have had something to do with that because I like Seattle a good bit tonight. Colorado's 3, Atlanta 4, then Arizona, Cleveland, which may, obviously a significant hit with no J-Ram. And I was the only person, Chop, I'm still a believer in the Cardinals versus lefties, so I put the Cardinals 5th for what it's worth. But how do you feel about those rankings? Anything too high, anything too low, anything missing? Cincinnati, Seattle, Colorado, Atlanta, Arizona, Cleveland, and St. Louis.
Yeah, I just saw a message pop up on the screen, Dean. It said from T from LOC. It says the king of the juggalos swings a mighty banhammer. People forget Turkey was a juggalo. People forget that he was a juggalo.
I don't think that's true. I think he denied that, and I need to see visual proof. I would pay a fair market value for that if we can get a picture. It didn't happen, but yeah.
I mean,
what's your favorite Insane Clown Passy song?
The one where they rob the bank and they hit the girl and they slap.
You actually know one? I don't know any. I'm just
making that up. I don't know if that's a real song or not. But I mean, some stacks here, Dean. I would say, like I said earlier, it's hard to get away from that course field when it looks so juicy, man. So I'm still going to stick with Colorado and Cincy being my top 2 favorite stacks. I don't know how I'm going to get different there, but I'm going to play plenty of those guys because the prices are like, if they price these guys up, that's fine. I can get away from it. But man, they price them down, and so I'm gonna go with that. But I do like your Seattle call. Big fan of Seattle tonight. I like that one. BSB brought up Arizona in chat earlier. I like Arizona. Kyle Muller. I'm not a big Kyle Muller guy here, so I think Arizona's has a pretty decent offense. And
have you heard about that bullpen in Oakland? You ever hear anything? Have people been talking about the bullpen for the Athletics?
What do you mean? How bad they are?
People just always say, like, well, the Oakland A's, their bullpen. It's like you have to add the tagline. Like, not only if I have you at Kyle Muller, just wait. Their bullpen is horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Arizona. I like Arizona as I think that is a nice little, has been mentioned in chat. It's a nice little leverage spot there if you want to get to Arizona. Because, Kyle Muller stinks. The bullpen stinks. The offense is pretty good. What do we got here? We got an official lineup. Marte, Gurriel kind of stinks. Christian Walker's go. Evan Longoria batting 5th. Carroll needs to be up in that lineup a little more.
Left, they drop him a little bit. Yeah,
it's all good. Just get on base and he'll get you some points via the stolen base. He's good like that. But, okay, Dean. So, I'm with you here. A top 5 stack. I did not rank today, but if I was ranking a top 5 stack for me would be St. Louis against Wade Miley with that umpire out there favoring hitters. Like, Wade Miley's fine. I don't know how he's resurrected himself these last couple years to being a pretty adequate pitcher, but the St. Louis team is really, it's like they're condensing all their early season struggles and they just they're taking all that out in like a week span here, and they're doing really, and they're really hitting the ball right now. They got these guys in that lineup who really good against left-handed pitching. So I'm with you, man. I think St. Louis is a top 5 stack for me tonight. And
me and you, Chop. There you go. We're together.
And that leads me to listen, Goldschmidt in his whole career, lefty killer, Wilson Contreras. Obviously, one of your best catchers on this, not the best catcher on the whole slate. So any of these guys are good, but I'm going to go out here, Dean. This is my BVP call of the day is Arenado. I know it's kind of low-hanging fruit, easy stuff, but I'm going Arenado, Dean. I'm going Arenado as my BVP play. So I think this whole lineup looks pretty interesting here.
Chop, no homers. No homers in 25 at bat. You like singles?
I don't.
You might as well roster Stephen Kwan.
I'm not looking at a specific category, home runs, or I'm looking at a grander picture, Dean. And I'm getting into exit velocities and all that other good stuff. So there's a lot going on there, Dean. This is proprietary stuff. And don't try to guess at what I'm looking at here. I know what I'm looking at.
You're saying your BVP stuff is proprietary?
You're using
that term very loosely. What's the formula? You can't tell me what the formula is.
Do you know what proprietary means? It means I can't give it away, D. I can't give it away, or else it would.
I feel like you're referencing your previous. I think you're referencing the Twitter conversations earlier today. I don't know. I feel like you're making a subtle jab at the term. Just like Kirkwood's patent pending weather model. Is that proprietary as well?
It is. And the reason why it's patent pending for so long is because he's had so much success with it. He kind of doesn't want to follow through and give it away to the public. You know, so he's just kind of keeping it patent pending and keeping it, dragging it out, so he has it to himself for long. And I get it. I get that, dude. Well, that kind of, the guy's called Kid Yahoo for a reason.
Not because he's like 20. I'll tell you that's the reason. It's not that reason.
Whoa! Shots fired, Dean. God, I hope we need to edit that out before Kirk sees that.
Like at some point, he's no longer Kid Yahoo, right? He's just Yahoo or Guy Yahoo, middle-aged Yahoo. I don't know when it changes. But speaking of age shaming, TJ is in chat, by the way, and he's calling you out, saying, "Look, Chop, you're telling me you made fun of me for taking Mookie Betts one day at a 5% ownership, but hit us with Arenado today." First of all, Spidey doesn't know. In my understanding, I don't speak directly with Spidey yet. I can't really speak to this, but I'm gonna speak to it. Spidey doesn't know about ownership, right? He doesn't know about the odds in the sports book. He just knows who's going to homer, who's not going to homer. I don't think he digs into it's a 500 and minus 520 in FanDuel. It's a good bet. But or like how popular they're going to be in DFS. There's a Venn diagram. There's a crossover for sure. But my understanding, and TJ can explain it, I suppose. But he basically his reasoning for saying Betts was fine was because he wasn't super heavily owned. He was also like 9K or something that slate. But he's giving you hard. He's giving the business basically saying you're not being ambitious today. Your BAB play is super obvious.
TJ doesn't get it. It has nothing to do with ownership, like you just said, Dean. He gave away a Mookie Betts that was like you said, he was like 7K that slate. He was like $7,000 a salary. I mean, come on, man.
By the way, just to speak to Wade Miley, I wrote up the Cardinals today as my quote unquote sneaky stack, and I think they're going to be pretty underowned on FanDuel. A couple of guys are kind of cheap. Arenado for some reason is like 2.8 over there, which is egregious. An actual real price for him for Goldie, and on DK as well. Those guys are priced a little bit more efficiently, I guess you can say. But Wade Miley has been lucky, right? Facing 7 righties. I think it's 7 as opposed to I thought it was going to be 8. I'm not sure who's not in there, but we have 7 righties in that lineup. Wade Miley this season, 11.6% strikeouts versus righties, which is horrendous. 49% fly balls, 8.2% homer on the fly ball. He's got a 3.6 ERA, but regression monster is coming for Wade Miley. He's got a 5.07 Sierra. Maybe tonight's the night. I don't know. But he's been playing above his head. Maybe tonight he gets exposed. And I think St. Louis, it's a pretty big slate, and Coors is out in front. Again, I was the only one that ranked St. Louis as in the top 5. I got him 5th overall. And I'm not terribly concerned with ownership beyond the Coors stuff. I guess Seattle, depending on, could be reasonably popular. But I'm going to have more Cardinals than the field. And Miley is a professional pitcher. He's competent at throwing baseballs, but I'm not afraid of him. And I like the righty power, the lefty mashers, if you will, on that St. Louis side a good bit. We should address, Chop, just the McLean. We don't really talk about players, just specific players a ton. Obviously, crunch time, 15 minutes, you're going to get Dave Potts, you're going to get Derek Carty, you're going to get Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth, and then their show, they're going to go around the horn. You're going to feed you all the players, all the cash game players for catcher, all the cash game players for first, best tournament players, yada, yada, yada. We can do that too. If you guys really want us to prompt us, we can do it. Yeah, why not? But we don't really do that very often. This is more like a general conversation in the slate and wherever the chat happens to take us. And by all means, we got 15 minutes. Chat, join the conversation. Whatever you want us to talk about, we're happy to do so. But we can't ignore McLean here, Chop. We can't do what DK did and ignore the price to McLean. He's 2K. FanDuel at least add him to the pool. All right, good job. He's 2K over in FanDuel. Do you have an official take with McLean? Are you leaning in? Are you leaning out? Are you going to be with the field? Checking to see what our current ownership is on him. And I guess it's around, 35% or so. Where are you at as far as McLean, batting second for the Reds against Chase Anderson, who was almost out of the league?
Where am I at? I'm locking him in, Dean. I'm locking him in. Like on DraftKings, where I don't. Tonight is the show and everything, so I'm only doing one lineup. Last night, 3 lineups. I lock him in. Tonight, I'll put him on that one lineup on FanDuel. I don't know what his price is over there or any of that other stuff, so I have to get that. But on DraftKings, where he's min salary, yeah, it don't matter. Just I'll take the salary. Dean, you're on mute. I can't hear you, Dean. You're on mute.
Chop, when you say you're locking a player in and you're making one lineup, you're locking everybody in. You're just not locking the play.
I had to preface that after I said it. Yeah, it's one lineup, so of course I'm locked. Last night I locked him in at 2K.
Yeah.
it worked. It was fine, and he's fine. I'll do it tonight, and even if he gets a 0, who cares? I've got one spot there that was men's salary. I'm okay with that, Dina. On FanDuel, or let's say I was running 150 on DraftKings. Oh
Yeah.
man, let's see. And what is he, a shortstop? I'll pull it
Yeah.
up for you right now.
Well, that's the conversation I want to have. But yeah,
okay, then if I was running 150 on DraftKings, this sounds. I know a lot of the guys who do tournaments will scoff at this. I'm gonna lock him in because who's your next highest projected guys? The Trey Turners, Bobby Witts. None of those.
It's J.P. Crawford, ownership wise.
No, projection wise, straight up
You're
raw
talking about,
points.
Raw points.
Shortstop, raw points. We're talking about Turner, Witt, Lindor, Edman. Like none of those guys jump off so much to me that I'll take that guy who's 2K, plays a position that I don't. If this was an outfielder, it'd be a different story. There's a lot of outfielders a first base, even a third base. Shortstop, I'm not worried about. So I'm gonna lock him in. I'm gonna lock Matt McClain in on DraftKings. I'll take the 0 if it happens to be like that, and I think I still got a chance to win in baseball with a 0 from a min salary guy.
Ownership wise, the next guy is J.P. Crawford leading off for Seattle. Not a great bat, but he is leading off. Decent shot at those 5 ABs. Path of the Righteous Man, Ezekiel Tovar, batting 9th today for Colorado, is getting 7% just because he's on Colorado. He's pretty cheap. I do think it's an interesting spot where just spend up on Turner, spend up on Lindor, and my favorite to spend up on is Bo Bichette at 4% against Herman. Herman, kind of a neutral, somewhat reverse guy as far as his splits against the righty power of Bichette, and just going the other way, making a different build as opposed to just locking it in. And I'm not here to tell you. I mean, if you're playing cash games, of course, play McClain. But your McClain shares in tournaments quite possibly could die hard because he can go for 5. Of course he can, right? We don't know if he's good, and I understand why people are playing him. I'm going to play him again in some lineups too. 2K on FanDuel, 2K on DK. But I think it's an interesting spot for tournaments. I'm curious what Dave's going to do. I'm sure Dave will talk about it in a bit. And I know Dave was also on the Rockies in his article today. And they've obviously taken a hit because their lineup is not nearly as spectacular as one would expect. Without Crone, without McMahon, without Bryant, I wonder if he's still on the Rockies. He was kind of betting against them, just betting against the pitcher who looks pretty putrid. And he got promoted, I think, because Lodolo was taking Lodolo's spot. I would imagine that's whose spot he's taking. Lodolo went on the IL with like an ankle or something, or a thigh, some part of his leg. Chop, you got any homers for the people? I don't know how many likes we need for homers. I don't know if we're playing the Spidey game, or if you're feeling generous, you just want to throw out some homers. And feel free to be as ambitious as you want to be. Like, be as ambitious as Spidey or more ambitious as Spidey and TJ. A couple guys that are going to go yard. The people like this stuff.
Yard work. Let's see if we get some. So I'm going to highlight I don't know what the ownerships are on these guys right now, but I'm going Spencer Steer is a Colorado homer I do like. I like Spencer Steer tonight, Dean. I've already mentioned Arenado. High price, but getting away from some of the chalky guys, Adolis Garcia. I think that's an interesting one. And then I say we talked about Seattle, like all that, a lot about their stacks. So who's going to get there? There's a lot of popular names up top. I'm going to go down to the near bottom of the order, bottom third of the order. I'm going Teoscar Hernandez, who's been pretty good lately, and I'm going to get behind that. So I'm kind of I'm going to get that. That covers me some different stacks: Cincinnati, Steer, Teoscar for Seattle. I think the Texas Atlanta game is very interesting game stack. I'm not going to game stack necessarily, but if you did, those are some good offenses right there. And I like Adolis in there. And then I've already mentioned Arenado as my favorite St. Louis guy tonight.
Yeah, Atlanta is one of those teams that I talk about if I make a certain number of lineups. Like, is Atlanta on the slate? Okay, I'm supposed to make at least one Atlanta stack because they can always get there. Last night they got there again. Just a ferocious offense there at Atlanta. I think the roof is closed in Texas for what it's worth. Facing Dunning. Prefer lefties against Dunning, but it is what it is, and you're locked in for 9. You never really know. It's perfectly fine. Chat wanted a summary as far as pitchers. Kurt said he just got here. Can you take a minute or so, Chop, and give me the rundown as far as your approach to pitching tonight?
Sure. I think that there's a lot of guys in the top zone. Nobody stands out. So all those Javier, I'd rank them Javier, Wheeler, Kershaw, Gausman, Verlander. I think they're all good. Javier being the best, but doesn't stand out necessarily so much further above everybody else that you have to play him. A decent mid-range, highlighted by Seth Lugo for me. Alex Cobb is fine. Lance Lynn gets a bump up tonight because of the opposing lineup missing its best hitter. I don't mind Shane Bieber. And I don't think – and Dean's kind of decent on Castillo. I'm not as much on Castillo. And I just don't think that there's much of a reason for you to dip down any lower than Lance Lynn. There's too many pitchers on here. There's too much money you can save hitting with some really good value out there tonight. So I'd be careful with dipping down too low in the pitching. And we do have a request, Dean, in chat.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it from Cam the Man. He said, what the heck happened to Dean's Dinglings? He wants a Dean Dingling.
Oh, the Dongs they're asking about. Yeah.
I thought we changed his name. My bad.
I must have missed that meeting. I'm not sure if I was there for that one. But we do have a graphic for that too, I believe. Producer Steve can show it to the people. Yeah, I'll fire off a couple before we step aside and get out of here. I did see a couple other questions in chat. Bossbro was saying McLean's a top prospect, Dean. He's like number 70 or 80 in all baseball if you look. And a lot of top prospects become like nothing. So I know he's a top prospect, or depending on how you use that word. Top prospect? No. Top 20? No, that's a top prospect. Top 70, I'm not really sure. Obviously this year, he's been spectacular, hitting a lot of homers, stealing a lot of bases. We'll see if he's good or not, but 2K, we'll take our chances for sure. Alan wants to know, I don't know if it's a Cincinnati stock or not, or it's an a la carte piece, but Will Myers or Steer at first base? I would take Steer amongst those two. Who do you prefer as far as Steer and Myers?
I prefer Steer. I'm a little there's rumors in chat saying Dean's dongs are shooting blanks these days. I don't know what to think about all that.
Who put a name on that? I feel like you're just making that rumor up.
Distracted. Well, I didn't want to call him out, but it's Kirkwood. Yeah, Kirkwood says so.
All right, fair enough. I mean,
you remember that thing last year where you would challenge, you let somebody challenge you every week to a contest, and then you whooped them for like 7 or 8 straight weeks. Good job by you, man.
Should we run it back? Yeah, that was kind of fun. That was I always say it in my head so I don't say it wrong. That was beat mean Dean. Yes, because people would misconstrue and shuffle those words up and make it mean different things. But it was the beat mean Dean contest, and maybe we'll run that back at some point. We were offering, I think, a month free of RG Premium, and somebody eventually got me for what it's worth. But yeah, maybe we'll run that back again. And FanDuel, DraftKings, we play wherever, just played a head-to-head, and we had a pretty good record for that. But we should run that back. Maybe we'll run it back later on this week. Are you on later on this week, Chopper?
Dean, that's a great teaser right there, Dean. That's a great teaser. On Friday, it will be me, you, and drum roll, please. TJ joins the show for the first time since he age shamed me.
Oh, man.
A couple weeks ago, so we can clear the air right here organically on the air.
We'll have to quiz him like 90s trivia and just totally shame him. He doesn't know things that happened before he was born. That'll be a fun show for sure. And Chop, are you going to be on Sirius soon? I believe you're on Sirius as well. You're added to the mix, yes?
Or no? I haven't got a confirmation. I volunteered, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, all right. Hopefully you jump in the pool. I think STL Cards is jumping in the pool this weekend with me. We're having a good time over there hanging out at Sirius on the weekends. If you guys are not aware, we're on typically on Saturdays 3 to 5, typically on Sundays 7 to 9. Talking a lot of best ball, Chop. You a best ball guy? You play a little best ball these days, or is it too early for you? Or that's not for you. That's for the birds.
I will, goof around and just because I get bored during the summer, I'll play. But I definitely don't get the. I'm not here to talk about anybody's preferences on, if they want to do research 7 months before NFL starts, and I'm not, that's not on me to tell them they're in the wrong. Go for it. I kind of don't want to hear. I kind of don't want to hear or see it all up in my timeline. I think it's kind of pointless, but it is what it is. To each their own, man.
Got about 5 minutes or so until the crunch time crew jumps in here. You got Derek Carty, CEO of the Bat and the Blitz. The Bat, more important today. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth will be jumping in as well, I believe. Let me hit a refresh as far as weather. I'm pretty sure we're pretty clean. Last I saw that Colorado was yellow, but yellow's not particularly scary. And then the way he kind of phrased it, I'll drop this in chat for the people. Yeah, nothing really alarming of note. If something comes up, of course, Roth will be on top of it. And then you got Dave Potts, two-time millionaire winner. Dave Potts will be jumping in. Whatever you all want us to talk about the next 5 minutes, feel free to fire it off. I did promise a couple of the downs. I did my off the board kind of homer today was Josh Young. Josh Young today for Texas. I assume he's in the lineup. I've not checked to see. But this Schuster character for Atlanta, I'm not necessarily sold on him. If you want to be a little bit less ambitious, it's Garcia for the Texas side. But don't mind. I'm not going to fully stack Texas, but maybe like as a mini stack, I'm okay with Texas. I was hoping Seager will be back. There is no Seager just yet. Maybe we'll get one more for the road before the people, before we step off. Again, 5 minutes until we step aside. Chop, your favorite stack. You're making a single entry lineup. Who would be your favorite stack today?
I mean, I hate to say it, Dean, but even so, I'm making a single entry lineup, right?
Okay.
One lineup, planning and all that stuff. I mean, it's going to be Colorado.
How do you make it different?
I don't know. I'll get to it. I'll figure it out. Last night, I was pretty chalky at hitter, and I made it different with Waka and who was the other really good pitcher? Who was the other really good pitcher?
Waka was very good, and it wasn't Green. We've already established that. It wasn't Frambar.
They had two really good pitchers. One of them was walking that other guy. But anyway, so yeah, you just figure out. I mean, you figure it out. I like that one, but you know,
Merrill Kelly.
No, I don't think. Oh,
Flaherty.
Flaherty. That was. I played Flaherty.
You did.
Flaherty and Walker. I know. Weird, right? But you get it's like tonight, you know. So maybe I'll be chalky at hitter, and then come back with who's low owned here. Maybe I do Bieber, you know, something crazy. Bieber Castillo. You just don't know. So yeah. I like that one. And also, Dean, while we're here, I just wanted to say that I did see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Man, that needs some attention, Dean. That needs some attention for Academy Awards, man.
Well, it's probably not going to get an Academy Award. They just typically rarely award those kind of movies, but
I know. But they need it. Yeah. You know, just like Thor Ragnarok was that good, so was Guardians. Like, Dean, I dare you to go in there and not like well up in your eyes a little bit at a couple of points and drop some tears.
Really?
Oh, it's good, man.
It's like Toy Story 3. It's that kind of movie.
It's really
first 10 minutes of Up are kind of sad.
In fact, it tugs at the heartstrings quite a few times, man. It's crazy.
Is Groot still around? Is he still a thing?
Yeah, he's getting bigger now. You know, he's progressing.
You know who voices Groot, right?
Do I know who? Of course I know.
He's your guy.
Yeah,
Toretto.
Vin Diesel, man. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even want to tell you what happens at the end, but big Groot scene at the end. Spoiler, but I'm not going to spoil it for you.
He's going to
stick around to the end. Stick around to the end. You see.
Better or worse than Magic Mike? I know you're a big Magic Mike guy.
Oh, Guardians is better. Guardians is really sharp, man. It's funny and it's good stuff. Yeah.
I just like saying the sentence, I know you're a big Magic Mike guy. I don't know. And that's an authentic statement, right? That you would back that up.
Guardians? Magic Mike? Yeah, Guardians is great, man.
Is there a movie, Chop? Is there a scene that you can turn on? Richie Small says, I only cried during Rudy when they chant his name at the end. Is there like a scene in a movie that just like it's going to break you every single time? If you could just turn right to it, just fire it up, and like that scene gets you. What's the scene that gets you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, people forget Rudy was offsides. Okay.
It was offsides. It's like 40-3, but yeah, it was offsides.
I mean, there's a lot, Dean. There's actually several movies that do that, but the one where Friday Night Lights, the movie, based on the book, at the end when when they don't get the spoiler alert, they don't get the touchdown, they don't win the state championship, and he's walking off, and his dad comes up, and gives him the hug and shows him he's proud of him. That's a tearjerker for me. Or the scene. Oh man, this one, the same movie, The Locker Room at halftime of that game, where Billy Thorne's giving the speech, and they turn to the running back. God dang, I'm forgetting his name, even though I know the movie real good. The running back who got hurt, he's there and he's got tears in his eyes because he can't play. And the real running back, the real guy, was standing right next to him in that scene. So
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was playing a coach.
It was based on a book, right? So it was
a true story based on a book. Yeah, he followed him around for a year. But yeah, that one gets me too, man. When they put the camera on him and he's crying in the locker room. Yeah, it's good stuff, D. Good
people
stuff.
in the chat are sharing their Brian's song. I know is the one that's for the older people.
Booby Miles, how could I forget that? Booby Miles, real guy, man. Tore up his knee before they could reconstruct the knee real good, man. So, and it ruined his career, dude.
Rocky 4, when Adrian says you can't win, I feel like she said you can't win in every Rocky. Is that specific to just Rocky 4? Didn't she yell at Rocky in every Rocky? No? Maybe I'm just remembering, putting them all together. But what about yourself, Carty or Roth or Dave Potts? Is there a movie or even a TV show if you want to introduce it? Sure, why not? You turn it on, the scene gets you every single time. It gets all of a sudden you're cutting onions. Is there a scene that sort of stands out that'll always break you?
Every sports movie ever, I cry. Like every time sports and emotions are involved, like it's 100% I will win. By the way, the chat, put Booby in. You want to win? Put Booby in. I'm about to spin, coach. That shit's so good. It's so good.
Roth is fired up today. I don't know if Carty or Potts can back that up, but like The Replacements makes you cry every sports movie.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't get to...
All right, Dave.
I have a lot. It's a pretty long list. We will get it. I'll give you. If you just need one, it's clearly Mr. Holland's Opus. Just every scene of that movie.
What movie?
Mr. Holland's Opus.
I've always wanted to see that, but I never have.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So next time I want to cry, put on Mr. Holland's.
Yeah, when you need a good cry, that's the
or
one.
The Replacements. Yeah, I never. That's not what I would guess, Dave. But yeah, for sure, that definitely. There were some scenes in that movie as well. I feel like Field of Dreams is like the chalk in that as an answer for people. I think that's a. You got something to throw out there, Carty, for the people?
I'm trying to think. There's a movie Minari a couple years ago. It was like an indie Oscar movie that was sad towards the end. Bridge to Terabithia.
Oh gosh,
super underrated choice. But
even though I'm in like fourth grade reading the book, I was like, that's probably the first time I cried like that in my life.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Presumably since I was a baby. I don't know.
Airbud, according to the chat, broke down some people. Even Little Giants, they want to know, Roth. The Little Giants, the annexation of Puerto Rico, did that get you?
Yeah, anytime a team works so hard for something and then you see someone like finally make it or not make it, either way, I'm just like, I'm blubber, man. Something about sports, it gets me.
Fair enough. Hey, David, you cry when you saw the Rockies lineup today? I know you're a big fan of the Rockies today in the article. Of course, CJ Cron on the IL. No McMahon, no Chris Bryant. It's like they're actively working against Colorado Stacks today. I know you all elaborate on it, but
it's fantastic because it's like still like nobody's going to play the Rockies because it's such a weird little lineup, and they're going to score 48 runs. It may be 47 singles. But there's no way this pitcher can be as bad as he looks. But oh my goodness, I don't know where they found this guy. Like he could not. He shouldn't even be in the bullpen for Oakland, from what I've seen. I don't understand.
Chop, you got anything else for the boys before we step aside and make way for the start of the Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time?
Nope. Got to get out of here. Let's do it.
That was Head Chopper. I was Dean. Appreciate y'all watching. Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time. You got Derek Carty. You got Dave Potts. You have Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
Let's do it. Welcome to it. Good stuff, guys. Welcome to it. This is indeed Crunch Time. It is sponsored by FanDuel. This is the show where we bring in two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We let them talk it out, hopefully kindly. Oftentimes, it devolves into some arguments.
Mostly just to make Roth uncomfortable.
Yeah, usually it is around Arenado. I don't know if he's.
I love it when Roth is just like, all right, well, we've got to go.
Well, if we could move it along now. No, it's always fun hearing kind of the different sides of both takes, different sides of the same argument. Hey, this show is sponsored by Fanduel, and we are thrilled to have Fanduel as a sponsor. You got to sign up for the Fanduel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. This is relatively new here. New customers, you get the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. I would like to remind everyone that I did that pretty recently, and I said all the Jalen Brunson overs with my no sweat, and there was no sweat. I got all the free money from FanDuel. It was dope. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're signing up. Some awesome stuff going on there with FanDuel. And we've got a pretty good little slate here, guys. No real weather concerns. I like that. Cheese, you want to walk me through kind of an overview here?
Yes. There's a ton of pitching, like a ton, and yet still there's kind of like condensed pitching chalk, which is kind of weird.
Weird.
And then there's Coors Field that feels like it should be mega chalk, but it's kind of not, just because the lineups are both kind of weird. There's not as many offenses to like as yesterday, when it was like pretty much the whole slate had great upside. But there's enough. There's still going to be some chalk that condenses, and not all around Coors Field. But essentially, the slate's just weird with the way the pitching is. It's like you have this little bit of chalk, but then the next dozen pitchers are all good enough that you don't really want the offenses against them either.
Okay, interesting. All right, Carty, anything that you want to add there? You're in agreement about the pitcher chalk, I can tell.
Yeah, like there, in terms of projections, there isn't even a single pitcher that like you have to have. So it's weird that we're kind of going to get some chalk. We're going to get some really well projected guys kind of not coming in as high owned as they should be. We're going to get a lot of kind of the cheaper guys that'll just automatically differentiate your lineup. Like it doesn't look like any of them are really going to be played much. So it is kind of a weird slate like that. And we have Coors, but we have another team that's just as good as Coors. And we have, I think, a couple of really sneaky offenses that are going to be very low owned.
Okay. I want to talk some pitchers here, and I got a question about Weather Edge. I'm trying to pull it up, and it doesn't look like it's loading right now, so I'll work on that. In the meantime, who wants to lead off with some pitcher talk? I will. Whoever raises their hand first gets the honor. Don't rush to do it all at once, guys.
I'll start. I suppose.
There we go. There we go. There's the enthusiasm. Carty, talk about what we're doing here, pitcher wise.
So at pitcher, we have a top, I don't know, top 4, top 5, depending where you want to kind of draw the line, of guys that are all like really, really similar. There's 5 guys that project within like three FanDuel points of each other, like, 1.5 or 2 DraftKings points of each other. And it seems like the chalk of those guys is going to be Christian Javier. He projects for the highest ownership on both sites. But he actually, in terms of the bat, only projects kind of third in that grouping of 5. Again, they're all super clustered together. But when you have projections that are clustered together like that, and one of the guys is going to be like way higher owned than the others, he's the easy fade. I like Javier. He's fine, but I don't even think you have to play him in cash games. You have Zach Wheeler, who projects basically the same, and he's cheaper on both sites. On FanDuel, you save $600. On DraftKings, you save $400. And so I kind of don't see why everyone's going to be jamming in Javier. Like Wheeler's every bit as good as Javier, probably better just as a pitcher. And his matchup's really good. It's a huge park upgrade. He's going into San Francisco. He's facing, a below average San Francisco lineup that is the most strikeout heavy on the slate today. It's a great, great pitcher's park. I haven't checked the weather there, but it's usually one of the more pitcher-friendly weather. Do you have it, Roth, handy? Let me pull it up for me.
Off the top of my head here, but
yeah, but I would imagine it's going to be like right there. And so Wheeler's kind of, I feel like, of this grouping, the one that is the best value. Oh yeah, San Francisco, lowest air or highest air density on the slate. So best pitching weather on the slate, essentially in San Francisco. So there you go. So lots of things to like about Wheeler, and he has a pitcher's umpire, and he has a great pitch framing catcher. So I like Wheeler at his price. Then you also have Kevin Gausman, who's kind of like the best of these guys, but again, it's close. That's probably my preference on DraftKings is to pair the two of them. You could pair Wheeler with Javier instead, though, if you want. But Gausman's facing the Yankees, who are, I mean, let's face it, not like awesome these days. And Gausman has been very, very good this year. And so like those are kind of the three that I think people are going to gravitate the most to. But then you also have Verlander and Kershaw, who are not in quite as good spots as these other guys, but they're both really, really elite pitchers. And at their lower ownership, I think they're super interesting. And then you kind of have on DraftKings, more on DraftKings than FanDuel, where you need two pitchers and salaries, a little bit more of an issue. You kind of have like three of these like cheaper guys that project pretty well and are too cheap for their price and are just going to get missed because there's these five like ace type guys. And maybe they're not quite as necessary because you have those five ace type guys, but you do have Lugo, you have Jordan Montgomery, and you have Lance Lynn, who are all good for the salary and are all good pitchers in their own right anyway.
Okay. Cheese, you want to walk through what your plan is here pitcher-wise?
Yeah, I mean, the pool is really straightforward. It's just what he said. And like what I do when I start out every morning is before I even look at matchups or salaries, like I just look at just the plain old skill sets of the pitchers. And essentially those five pitchers and really six if you add in Castillo, who's not as good a play because of the matchup, but those six pitchers, they're essentially the same skill level. I mean, little ups and downs here and there, but they're more or less the same guy, and they're all great. Because Wheeler and Javier are cheaper, and the matchups are better. Well, there's your chalk. I think it's air quotes good chalk because you can use the $1,000. But playing the ownership game, I mean, of 12 to 15% Justin Verlander is better than a 35 to 40% Christian Javier. Like that's just how that works. But like points per dollar because of the matchups, yeah, Javier and Wheeler are kind of the chalk for a perfectly good reason, and I'm playing plenty of them. But it's the exact same thing that Derek said. Like Gausman, Verlander, Kershaw, they're Gausman, Verlander, and Kershaw. Like no explanation is needed. If you have extra salary, you can get different with aces, so do that. And the same group of savers, Montgomery, probably the chalk DK salary saver. Lugo and Lance Lynn both got little upgrades from the opposing lineups, I think. And I'm playing a little bit of both of them, totally fine with them. And I don't see the need to spread out any more than that. I get the one, dumb thing I will say on purpose is I have like 2 or 3 lineups with Dane Dunning because I wanted to play all the expensive bats and just hope to get super lucky. But I do not recommend you doing that. I recommend you playing against him.
Dane Dunning is probably not super stretched out. If I was going to do something weird like that, I think I'd probably take like Kyle Muller or something like that. But that's just me.
I think the best idea is not to do either of those things. And it's just not necessary because if you need salary, you can go Montgomery, Lugo, or Montgomery Lynn and still be pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, let's talk about some of the stacks, Cheese. I will let you lead us off in that department. What are you looking at? What are you liking?
Okay. So it still feels even more so than what I said this morning and in the article. Like, I think anyone will look at the slate and you look at this crazy jabroni that somehow is in the major leagues for Cincinnati. And like the Rockies have to score the most runs. And yet I'm not sure anyone's playing the Rockies because what in the world is this lineup, especially against a lefty? I love the Rockies. I don't know how they're going to score the 28 runs with this lineup. I really don't, but they have to score at least 28 runs. If this guy, like the AAA numbers for this guy, I cannot believe that he is making a major league start. Maybe the magic happened is just say nobody's seen this guy and he's been faking it all these years in the minors. But the Rockies are my top stack. Arizona, Seattle. I think Seattle is kind of the chalk, actually. especially with these salaries, especially on FanDuel. But Seattle is the non-sneaky Coors pivot. I like St. Louis and Atlanta quite a bit as well.
And Cheese, is there enough around where you're not too worried about chalk, pitcher or hitter wise?
I think the chalk is more condensed on the pitching side.
Yeah.
And other than Matt McClain, I think it's spread out enough. I'm a little worried about it with Seattle, honestly, but that's it.
Okay. All right. Carty, you want to throw in a few more stacks or tell me what you like?
Yeah, so Cheese is right. The Coors guys and Seattle is kind of like I think where most of the ownership is going to go, and pretty much anything else is going to make you different. I probably like the Braves the most beyond them, but I do think, especially on DK, but also I guess a little bit on FanDuel, the Red Sox against Luis Castillo, like nobody's going to play, but the bat has them projected as like the next best stack, like at the top of that next tier. It's Castillo, though. No one's going to do it. But the Red Sox are a pretty good offense. Fenway's an elite park. It's the best hitting weather. It's like 80 degrees, like 13-mile-an-hour winds to dead center field. And so I think Atlanta at like no ownership is really appealing, especially because they're so cheap. So you can get a lot of good stuff with them. Like you can double barrel aces and some elite one-offs and just a lot of good things. And then the Cleveland Guardians, for a similar reason, like they're facing a name pitcher in Lance Lynn. But he does kind of have a wider split. So the guys with the platoon advantage in particular are going to be good against him, and they're super cheap and project really well. So I think that's kind of all you have to do to be different from those like chalk teams. These other teams project really well, are sneaky, are low priced. Like that's just the move, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I suppose that leads us into a little around the horn, position by position talk. So Carty, why don't you start us off with catcher?
Sure. So like we said, we have Coors Field on the slate. We have this Jabroni Williamson going for Cincinnati. Elias Diaz is hitting third for the Rockies today. So I don't think you have to overthink it too much. Like just play Elias Diaz. He's got the platoon advantage. He's hitting third. He's in Coors Field. Like that's fine.
Against the Jabroni. Is he the one against the Jabroni?
He is. If you want to save money, though, on the other side of the game, Chase Anderson is just as big of a jabroni as Williamson. The bat actually thinks he's slightly worse, which is hard to do because Williamson's like a bottom 10 or 15 guy in all of Major League Baseball, but Williamson is worse. So Casali for 2.3K is totally fine. And then there are some decent guys just to like pivot off and be different. Like Cal Raleigh, I think will be the chalk off of Coors, maybe just the chalk in general. But you also have Wilson Contreras hitting third against a lefty and Wade Miley for like the same price as Diaz and Raleigh. You have Tyler Stevenson, who's more expensive for the Reds, and I don't think is going to be maybe quite as popular as like Diaz or Raleigh or maybe even Casali. And then guys in your stacks, like Sean Murphy and your Brave stack that I mentioned, that kind of thing.
Okay, Cheese is just going to agree. He's just going to say that is correct, especially the jabroni part. Cheese?
Yeah, I mean, play Diaz and or any human against Williamson. I do actually love the position. Like it's been deep a lot of this year, and like Contreras, I love Raleigh, I love Sean Murphy. Guy like Carty mentioned, the Red Sox is play another team kind of like that against a good pitcher, but it could happen as the Phillies. Someone like Real Muto will get like 1% ownership. Even William Contreras is playable. But pretty much play Diaz.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Take me to first base, Cheese.
You can go up or you can go down. Olsen, Goldschmidt, Alonso, and maybe Vlad and Freeman as well. Like that's a pretty fantastical top five that you can spend on. Josh Naylor is probably the go-to cheap guy, certainly on FanDuel. On DK, it's Naylor and Spencer Steer as the go-to cheap guys. And that right there, like, it seems like plenty of that should be chalk, but that's like 7 players. And then I also love Christian Walker, so make it 8 guys that, like, they can't all be chalky. I guess I'll say I think Steer will be popular-ish on DK, but otherwise I wouldn't worry about ownership. I would just play who you like. And if you have money, I would play mostly Olsen or Goldschmidt.
Okay. Carty, who do you like?
I think Naylor is probably the guy I gravitate the most towards, especially on FanDuel. He's just like he projects almost as well as like Olsen, Goldschmidt, Vlad, Alonso. But he's so much cheaper. He's 2.6. He's going into the best homer park in baseball. He's got the platoon advantage hitting third. Like he's a pretty decent hitter. I think he's the way to go, at least like for cash construction. On DraftKings, he's 3.3. He's good there too. But then you also have Spencer Steer, who's hitting cleanup for Cincinnati and Coors, and he's 3.5. And so I don't think you have to do anything beyond that to be like optimal. Mm-hmm. But like Cheese said, there are a lot of these elite guys, and the ownership's just kind of going to be spread, and a couple of them are going to have big games, and so get some exposure to those guys, and obviously guys in your stacks.
Very good. Okay, second base, Carty. Real quick, it's been pointed out that we have more votes in our YouTube poll question than we have likes on YouTube, which means the people are willing to click things on YouTube. They're just clicking the wrong things. There's a little thumbs up. Click that. There's a little subscribe button. Click that as well for the free content that you got from two of the sharpest minds in the biz. With that said, Carty, second base.
So we have Jonathan India, who's kind of like the clear top guy here. He's leading off. He's in Coors. We've talked about Coors a lot. So India's awesome. He's the guy that on FanDuel, at least, I think you play in cash. You're going to have the money to do it. If you need to save some money, you have like, I guess Jake Cronenworth is a good, pivot off of him. I guess Senzel, in the same game in Coors is fine. On FanDuel, you really don't have to overthink it. On DraftKings, you probably don't have enough to get up to India, but you can make it work. But you also have some cheap guys that I think are viable. We mentioned Seattle's going to be like super popular because they're in this awesome spot, huge upgrade going into Boston, the great weather, whatever. Colton Wong hasn't been good, but he's 2.2K with the platoon advantage in his great spot. I'm fine just punting second base because second base is always gross and just spending up more at other positions. If you're looking for GPP guys to take shots on, though, like Marcus Semien is going to be great. He's got the platoon advantage against another jabroni on this slate in Jared Schuster. Albies in your Atlanta stacks, that kind of thing.
Okay. Cheese, your thoughts at second?
I like Semien more than India, but I would rather not spend my salary at second. I like Albies and Marte. Those are my two favorite guys. Andres Jimenez and Cronenworth are kind of in there as well. Just in general, the team that I like a lot more than the bat does, I assume the bat just because of the ballpark, is Arizona. So Marte and Albies to me are, because they're just enough cheaper than India and Semien. That's kind of where I'm leaning, but it's not a terrible position compared to what we usually see. Like that's 5 or 6 players that are pretty likable.
Okay, how about third base, Cheese? This is where you're spending. You're spending dollars.
It's always good at third, of course. I don't have much Boston exposure, but I mean, absolutely. Like Devers is one of those guys. Anytime he's sneaky, like you should play him. He's very good at the baseball hitting. Suarez will be pretty chalky, especially on FanDuel where he's 28. Spencer Steer is third base on FanDuel, but not on DK, so that changes the position a little bit. But kind of probably helps make Max Muncy sneaky on FanDuel, which I love. You have some spend ups that I don't think really get played that much. Even Austin Riley, I don't think gets played that much. Arenado, Matt Chapman, that's great stuff. Like I want to play those guys more than I want to play like Nick Senzel because he's in Coors. I want to play Moustakas in some stacks, but he's not even a Rockies priority for me. So the position I really want to spend up and be different, which is Devers, Muncy, Riley, Chapman, Arenado.
Okay, very good. Carty, what are your thoughts?
Devers, I think, is the best GPP play on the slate, like at any position. He projects by a pretty good margin as the best third baseman on this slate, just straight up. And he's going to come in low owned because he's facing Castillo. But like she said, he's amazing. This spot is great in terms of park, weather, platoon advantage, just being awesome. You're not getting a discount on him, but I'm considering playing Devers, like you can play Devers in cash. That's how good of a play he is. So in GPPs at, as like the 8th highest owned third baseman on the slate or whatever he's going to be, like he's just an amazing play. So I love Devers. If you want to like gravitate more towards the chalk, you're going to have like Senzel or Eugenio Suarez, the guys from the teams that we've talked about. I think Bregman on FanDuel is a good value, and Austin Riley in your Brave stacks.
Okay. How about shortstop, Carty?
So on DraftKings, we have this guy, I guess on FanDuel too, honestly. This guy named Matt McClain, who's hitting second for Cincinnati tonight in Coors. And
they still haven't. This is the same
They
guy,
didn't
right?
change his salary from yesterday. They
did
had.
not.
I really thought they would have did
Yeah.
something with him today. But
It's
they did
weird
not.
that neither site did, but he's min price. He projects as the top option on the slate straight up. So like, just don't overthink it. Like play him.
Wait. He's the best projected player, like not even including salary at the position.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So if you're not playing him, or if any of your opponents are not playing him, they're terrible, and remember their usernames.
To be clear, that is for cash only.
For
We're talking
cash.
about
I mean, in
cash.
GPPs, obviously, you can do whatever you want. He is going to be very chalky, so you certainly don't have to play him in GPPs. In GPPs, though, I think it's more of like a spend up to be different kind of thing. Like you have Bobby Witt, you have Trey Turner, you have Lindor. JP Crawford's kind of in that like mid-tier range where he's a solid value. But just play McClain in cash.
Okay. Cheese, is this a slate where the bats are spread out enough that you can just play that dude and not worry? Like, all right, who cares if he's chalky? Nothing else is.
Yeah, there's so many other things we've talked about that are not chalky at all. I mean, you can play like Pete Alonso, Rafael Devers, and Aaron Judge, and they're all like 1% owned. So yeah, you can play a 40% owned Matt McClain. Like there's plenty of ways to do it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of him.
Okay.
Same group of spend up, like Witt, Turner, Bobichette. It's all fine. But if you're just trying to score the most points, like play McClain and spend the money somewhere else.
Yeah. All right. How about the outfield, Cheese?
So I guess compared to what we see on some slates, like the super expensive spend ups aren't in as much of must play spots. Like your Acuna, Tatis, Judge, Alvarez, they don't have quite ideal matchups. So I don't think you have to have any of those guys. I think the mid tier is probably where the chalk goes. With like on DK, it'll be like Grichuk, Kelenic, Teoscar Hernandez, Jake Fraley, Profar kind of stuff. On FanDuel, some of the better players are cheap enough, like Soto and Rodriguez and Tatis. They're barely like 3,500 to 3,700 or something. So, no one's going to play Acuna because he's $1,000 more, or Alvarez, who's $1,000 more. But you don't need to go dumpster diving as per usual on FanDuel. Anything below like 2,800 is pretty unnecessary outside of a stack. On the DK side, if you're not playing the expensive guys, you can play like 3 mid-range guys around the 4K mark. I think that's probably the chalk build, even in tournaments, with those Colorado guys, Seattle guys, and Fraley. But there is cheaper stuff. There's more Colorado bats. I like Brenton Doyle a lot. I like Michael Toglia a lot. Throw in Brent Rooker on DK as another mid-tier. Yeah, I'll stop there. There's plenty of names.
Okay, very good. And as usual, you answered questions that you didn't even know were being asked in the YouTube chat because someone had just asked about Doyle. So good work on that. Actually, Doyle on FanDuel is this specific question. 3K on FanDuel, Cheese.
Yeah, I mean, he's much less of a thing on FanDuel. I do have some, but like he's relatively overpriced on FanDuel compared to all the other 3K guys. So I just kind of like him.
Gotcha. All right, Carty, your thoughts on the outfield?
It's pretty similar. All the Seattle guys, Julio, Teoscar, Kelenic, They're great. The Coors guys, your Grichuk, your Fraley, your Fairchild, Brett and Doyle on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think the San Diego guys are really good. Soto, Tatis, and you can take a random shot on a super cheap Odor if you want. On
That's what the people wanted to hear.
I haven't had a chance to mention him yet. You gotta sneak him in there.
He had a home run a few days ago, so he's hot too.
Yeah, he's hot. I mean, there's nothing better in DFS when you're trying to figure out what a guy's going to do in the future is when they're hot. That's when you got to get right on them. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. Acuna, I love, like I mentioned, Brave stacks are awesome. Red Sox stacks are great. So like the Red Sox outfielders are going to be guys that I really like. Not necessarily as one-offs, but definitely in those stacks, your Yoshida, Verdugo kind of guys.
Okay, easy enough. Guys, we've got nearly 20 whole minutes until lock. Did we fight about Arenado yet? Have we fought about him?
There's nothing to fight about.
It's over?
It's
the argument's over. Stop. He's already dead.
It's over? See, the weird thing about Arenado, as hot as he's been right now, tell me if this is good, Cheese, because I was looking at his Fangraphs page. I'm like, this guy's got to be like crushing it now after all this. Let me pull it up.
As we have already discussed, you are supposed to be going off of long-term data.
Is a 316 Mlb good?
No. And as we have mentioned over and over
as
and over,
good as he's been,
you
still
are the one who says
average this year.
Long-term data.
So his 4-year barrel percentage is like 30th percentile. Is that good?
Barrel percentage? You get no DFS points for that. Literally zero. The 30 home runs and 100 RBIs are the best points.
I'm glad we brought it up.
DFS points for what has happened in the past, believe it or not. We really only care about what's going to happen next. And that percentage is really good at helping us figure out what happens.
4 home runs in a row. It has not helped you at all. If you listened to Derek last week, you miss out on 4 home runs in a row because he's bad.
All right. Okay. All right. We'll take a little breather here.
Speaking of jabronis,
let's dive into some home run picks, if you don't mind. Can we do a little bit of that? Carty, don't you dare. Carty, why don't we pull up the bat, and I want to see who is the most likely person to hit a home run today, and then I want somebody a little bit off the wall. I'm going to go with the guy in Houston. I'm going to go with the Houston guy as number 1.
What guy is in Houston?
The dude who you told me is a really, really good hitter.
Yordan Alvarez.
That's it. One day, Cheese was like, this Yordan Alvarez, he's a ridiculously good hitter. And that was a few years ago. And then it turns out you were right. Good call.
He's very good at the baseball hitting.
Yeah, he is. Who's first, Carty?
Eugenio Suarez has the greatest chance of hitting a home run today.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But, I mean, off the board, I mentioned him before, Rafael Devers. He's not like cheap off the board, but ownership-wise, no one's going to play him. And he projects for the 4th highest chance of hitting a home run today.
Okay, great. Cheese, I know you love the Devers call.
Yeah, we'll go with Christian Walker and Adolis Garcia.
Okay, very good. That gives us about 15 minutes to grind some QQs through lock. If you have some questions, make sure to get them in there. You can put them in the RG Discord where the cool kids hang out, or you can put them on the YouTube. But really, you should be joining up on our Discord. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, I implore you to hit that thumbs up for this fantastic content from these 2 baseball savants who will now also answer your questions. As I scroll up and search for some questions. What's the stack? All right, this is a good question. Your favorite DK single entry stack. Cheese, you go first.
Colorado.
Carty, favorite DK single entry stack.
Atlanta.
Nice. Okay. Any love for Texas against the Schuster feller?
They're fine. They're certainly viable.
Okay. FanDuel cash question. Cheese.
I was gonna say a little more of a yes for me. I like Texas a little more than that.
Okay. Carty, FanDuel cash question. This is a 3v3 Wheeler, Tatis, and Nolan Arenado.
The other side, obviously.
For Javier, J-Rod, and Naylor.
You can't play Arenado in cash. Don't be stupid. The other one.
Okay.
Derek hates DFS points.
FanDuel cash question. Apparently, Arenado has great BVP tonight.
Oh man,
Just-
load up. Never mind. I changed my opinion.
Cheese, this is a cash question, but I'm going to come to you for it anyways. Tatis Suarez or Soto Riley, FanDuel cash?
They're both pretty fantastic. Tatis Suarez.
Dean says QQ, when trying to make a point, is referencing barrel percentage more or less desperate than referencing WAR?
Is barrel percentage not something that people look at? It's like the single best StatCast metric that we have. People love StatCast. They post the stupid little screenshots of the sliders that don't mean anything. But I mentioned barrel percentage and it's desperate.
It seems like a legitimate stat to me. I'm on board with it.
I prefer DFS points, but whatever.
See, believe it or not, though, past DFS points do not predict future DFS points as well as barrel percentage.
Says you, yes.
Says math.
Says math, which has never yet once been wrong, as proven again and again and again.
Oh, hey, Cheese, who's your favorite pitcher in FanDuel cash tonight? Thanks in advance.
Zachary Wheeler.
Very good. What are your thoughts, Carty, on Bailey Ober? He has a heavy fastball, but Dodgers can hit any fastball.
No, 0% interest. On the betting show earlier, I took Ober's unders and it immediately dropped. So it's a bad spot for him. It's mostly just about the Dodgers being really good.
Okay.
And
It's also
Dodger
kind of fun to
Stadium
say
being
Ober's
great.
unders. Ober's unders. I took Ober's unders. FanDuel cash, Cheese, Ketel Marte or Doyle? Well, Doyle rules.
You're not wrong on that. Marte and cash.
Okay, DK cash question. Oh, we get Doyle again. Carty, Doyle or Toglia?
I guess Doyle.
Okay, FanDuel cash. Cheese, back to you. Tatis Jr. or Julio Rod? It looks funny. It's just Julio
I actually
Rod.
like that better than J-Rod. Julio
Yeah,
Rod.
me too. Julio
Again,
Rod.
both fantastic. You're not going wrong either way. I would go Rodriguez.
Okay. Cheese, on FanDuel, you spoke of these guys such as Doyle and Toglia being, oh man, we have so many questions. I hadn't scrolled down all the way. Doyle and Toglia being overpriced since pricing isn't as restrictive. What would be your want in single entry if playing Rockies? And would you include Blackman in your stack since this Williamson guy is a jabroni?
Yeah, so I want all 9 Rockies. Honestly, I'm playing Toglia and Doyle ahead of Blackman. Like my order of preference is Grichuk, Diaz, Profar, Doyle, Toglia, Blackman.
Okay, good work. Great. See, when we get off target, then all the comments are no longer questions. They're just nonsense. Here we go. Frederick Duke, any love for the Mets versus Tampa Bay opener game?
Not. I mean, they're one of those teams that's like they're there, they're in the mix, they're fine. I wouldn't say they're a bad play by any means. They're fine.
Okay. Cheese. How do you feel about Arizona Oakland stack?
I feel amazing about it.
Very good. All right. DKGBP Carty 3v3 for you. Crawford, Suarez, Kellenic, or Grichuk, Moose, and Trey Turner?
The first one is 3 Seattle guys, and the second one, it's the Seattle one.
Okay. A couple 1v1s, Cheese. So there's actually 3 1v1s. It's a really greedy question, but I'm going to allow it. Trejo Stott, Soto Tatis, and Schwarber Laureano.
Am I picking one of each of those 2 combos?
You are, yes.
Give me one at a time, and I'll answer quick.
Okay. Trejo Stott,
Trejo,
Soto Tatis,
Tatis,
Schwarber Laureano.
Schwarber.
Okay. Scrolling down. I don't know what this means, but Hammer says Portillo or Portillo gives me 2 dogs with everything.
That's a hot dog place, isn't it?
That was my guess. I don't know. I was like, all right.
Like
Okay,
Chicago hot dogs or something like that.
Yeah, look at you. I'm impressed. FanDuel GPP, Carty, is it safe to play Henry against Oakland bats since Oakland has one of the highest strikeout rates and lowest batting averages?
That was FanDuel, you said, right?
It was FanDuel GPP, yeah.
Yeah, if you squint, maybe on DraftKings, but definitely not on FanDuel, where you only need one pitcher and there's so much on this slate. Like, he's just not good enough. Like, as a pitcher, like, he's not talented enough.
Gotcha. All right, jumping back to the old RG Discord where the cool kids are hanging out. Fick says, DK GPP Cheese, are Casali and Fairchild too bad to try and differentiate a red stack?
No, because you need to try to differentiate a red stack, and they're so cheap that no, I'm on board on DK.
Okay, this is a great question from CLT Go Blue. Carty, how do you choose between Doyle and Toglia for your last piece in a DK GPP when they are both 2,900 and are in fact the same person?
I mean, when someone is the same person, it is really difficult to figure out. So
yeah. Do you have a lean? Do you have a lean between those two same persons?
I mean, they're so similar, but that slightly prefers Doyle. But like, there's not a wrong answer.
Yeah. All right. FanDuel cash question. Cheese, this is for you. Any love for Monsieur Francais? That's Ty France.
I wouldn't say love for, but what's interesting is we're talking about all these Seattle bats and Seattle's chalk, and yet even in Seattle stacks, I don't think people are playing Ty France. So yeah, he's a little bit interesting, but compared to the first base position, he's really far down the list.
Gotcha. All right. DK single entry, last piece, Muncy or Riley? Carty, Muncy or Riley?
It's probably Muncy, but it's really close.
Okay. This is fun. I'm going to give this to Cheese just to avoid arguments. FanDuel cash, 3K, Arenado or Ty France?
Arenado.
I feel like Carty might even agree with that. Ty France isn't a great play, right?
Arenado is probably better than France, but you're not playing him in cash.
Okay. All right. DK Cash, Schmitty Joshua says, Julio Rod and Cronenworth or Kellenich and Marte? Carty, Julio Rod and Cronenworth or Kellenich and Marte?
It's probably J-Rod Cronenworth.
Okay. Is a hot dog a sandwich question? The answer is no, it is not. A hot dog is a hot dog. It is a separate thing. It is not a sandwich. DKGPP Cheese, Devers and J-Rod or Muncy Acuna?
I mean, that's a definite yes is the answer. I mean, I Devers J-Rod, but just yes is the answer.
Yeah. All right. DePrince says, any thoughts on Mookie Boots? Either of you playing Mookie Boots tonight?
I think he's more appealing on FanDuel, but as a one-off, sure. But he's not like a core play, like cash guy.
But he's like, there's never wrong to play a dude who's that good at baseball, right? In a tournament.
No.
Correct.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing. Any faith in Lugo? We talked about Lugo briefly, but I don't remember where we landed there. Carty, you want to catch me up?
Yeah, if you're not playing one of the like those 5 like ace type guys, you have this little tier of cheaper guys with Lugo, Montgomery, and I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, Lugo's definitely, again, if you're looking to kind of be different off ace builds, I like Lugo quite a bit.
Okay. Question here for Cheese, and it's from the Detox, and he very kindly worded it. He said, "Hey, sorry to post this again, but I think it got skipped over. That happens. That's my bad. Any Rockies we should be worried about getting pinch hit for with McMahon and Bryant not starting?"
I mean, probably yes, but we don't really know what they're going to do. Like, I'm kind of just assuming they just want Bryant to have the day off because, like, he would be in there if he was playing. McMahon probably more likely to come in, but that's the thing. It could be any of Toglia, Doyle, or even Trejo or Tovar. I'm playing it as if there's no pinch hit risk, but sure there is a little.
Of the group, the bat thinks Doyle's probably the biggest risk. He's been the one that's come out more often than like Toglia or whoever.
Okay, great. New Generation 82 says FanDuel Cash, Carty, Javier and Springer Dinger or Wheeler and Tatis?
Javier and Springer or Wheeler and Tatis?
Correct.
Wheeler, Tatis.
All right. Cheese, does Montgomery have a higher ceiling than Wheeler due to the matchup? We saw Brewers revive Jack Flaherty last night. This is a FanDuel specific question.
I mean, no, Wheeler still has the higher ceiling, but I mean, Montgomery does have plenty of ceiling at that salary, and I like him a good bit. But I wouldn't say it's higher than Wheeler, no.
Yeah. Generic says there's a legitimate Arenado question, not starting a fight. Isn't third base kind of weak other than Devers?
I think that depends how you feel about Suarez, and Seattle in general. Like, kind of, but no, it's not really weak.
Okay. TJ pointing out, if we can get to 200 likes, he's going to drop some Spidey bombs, and we want to get to 200 likes. We want the Spidey bombs, so make sure you're hitting that like button for us. DK Cash question, last piece. J-Rod or J-Udge, that's Judge. That was well worded, Chinatown. If you've got the 500 left to get to Judge, Carty.
I just play Rodriguez and eat the money if you have to, or find somewhere else to put it because he's the top outfielder on the slate.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Has anyone explained to you why they start at 707 before we get? No, they haven't explained to me why they start at 707. If there's a good reason for it, I would like to hear it. I don't think there is. Important question, Cheese. Who wins the Wembanyama sweepstakes tonight?
Do you know is that what everyone's talking about on Twitter?
This is the thing. Tonight
is tonight the lottery?
Yeah, tonight is not. Yes, it's like the
they tell you who gets the first pick.
Exactly.
I didn't know why everyone was talking about this guy all of a sudden today. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I wouldn't even know who's possibly in the lottery, but hopefully someone.
Okay. Pick teams in Texas, and you got a pretty good, I think. Say a team in Texas.
San Antonio.
There you go. Yeah, I think they've got the top odds along with Houston. There's like 3 teams have the top odds.
I want San Antonio to get them.
I kind of do too. Weird. I guess I want Houston so I can watch them though. Let's see what else we got. Less than a minute. No, about a minute until lock here. Oh, Chinatown says they start at 7:07, so that in the Canadian games, so that they can sing 2 national anthems, and they only do the 7:07 games in Toronto. The extra 2 minutes being so that they can sing both national anthems.
I mean, that seems to make sense. I guess you could also start them 2 minutes earlier, but
that just start them 2 minutes earlier, and then we'll be fine. But all right, at least there's a reason. All right, I don't hate it. All right, I'm just literally trying to find a question under these last minutes. What's for dinner, gentlemen? Cheese, you get to go first. What are you having?
That's a really good question. Probably we got a little leftover Japanese, so probably gonna do that, like kind of hibachi style, like chicken and fried rice.
And that stuff is so good as a leftover too. Did they turn it into a little animal? Your leftovers? Did they make it into like a swan?
No, it wasn't one of those.
Disappointing. All right, Carty, dinner.
I think tamales tonight.
Oh, look at you, tamales! I did not take you for a tamale guy, Derek Carty.
I love all food. There's not a wrong answer to a food question.
Okay, I'm about it. How deeply, in case you're curious, shrimp tacos, corn tortillas, not flour. If you're still eating flour tortillas, you're doing it wrong. It's corn all day, every day. They're so much tastier if cooked. Don't get them raw. That's weird. Just how deeply unserious about winning and fan service are you if you don't put Chris Bryant in your lineup in Colorado?
It's a bummer for the fans. I mean, they're going to score 28 runs. Like, they don't need him to score all the runs. But it would, like, for the fans, they should let him show up against this jabroni. It would have been nice.
Yeah. Just getting spammed with horrible flour tortilla comments. They're just not, you just taste each of one. Just literally take a bite of a flour and then take a bite of corn, and the flavor difference is just going to blow your mind. You just have to cook the corn right so that the texture doesn't suck. That's all. That's the key.
That's the thing with all food that people don't like. They either have the palate of a 6-year-old, they've never tried it before, or you haven't cooked it right. Because if you cook any food right, literally any food in the entire world, it is good.
Yes, this is a fact. Well,
Nope, everything.
Yeah, that is like chicken liver and stuff.
Nope,
And I'm just like,
chicken liver's delicious.
Yeah, you're probably right, but I ain't trying it. I ain't gonna find out. Hey, with that, guys, I think that is a good spot to end things here. I think we can bounce on out of here. Make sure you hit us with a little thumbs up on your way out. For Cheese, for Carty, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We do love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.